The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Touchdown, Seahawks!
It's time to BS.
I am very excited to talk to this man. I'm very excited. I occasionally do listen to our BS Sessions discussion that we had over a year ago that we called the Pete Carroll dismissal. We did. So with that being said, welcome to the Department of BS, ladies and gentlemen, from the beaches of lovely Long Island, New York. My name is Daniel Smooth. This is Seahawks Sessions. Dustin's coming to you guys from the capital region of Albany, New York. And joining us in the middle of the room, a man who I've delightfully called one of the greatest beards in all of Seahawk media. Cigar smoking, bourbon loving, Seahawk writer himself, Jacson Bevens of Cigar Thoughts. Dude, what's up?
Hey, what's happening, fellas? I appreciate you making time. I know with the time zone difference, scheduling can be a little tricky. So I'm grateful for you guys making it work and looking forward to it.
We got you, my friend. We got you. Oh, boy. Dustin, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Hopefully I look a little less tired than last week. I think you were
definitely do.
I think you were legitimately concerned for my well-being last week, and I said, man, I'm just old now. I'm just old, right? But, man, it is great to meet you, Jackson. Cigars and bourbon, I love it. And I'm very envious of where you are because, as you can see, I'm in my landlord beige painted office. I had to make some upgrades in here, but I like to smoke the occasional cigar as well. I'm sure I'm not as knowledgeable about as you are about it. And I also like to get after bourbon or two. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Happy to have you.
Hey, thank you very much, man. It's great to meet you too. And I am fortunate. This is where Pacific Northwest starts to turn into the best place in the world. So we're getting through the 4-month tax that we pay every winter, and we're headed in the right direction over here.
It was beautiful out there from the view we can see.
Yeah,
under the gazebo you are currently in.
yeah. I had to. I was in between a couple of appointments, and the country club is halfway in between them. And so it worked out. They got a little gazebo off the 18th green.
Yeah.
And I just bring my laptop here a couple times a week when the weather's nice and just work from here anyway. So home away from home.
Beautiful. We love it. So Jackson, we've discussed a few times in this particular program the Seahawks offseason as a whole. I mean, I personally have loved it. From the free agent perspective, the moves that they made in the trades, and the one thing that I can definitely enjoy the most is that they have bought early, which they haven't done in 15 years around here. Between John Schneider and Pete Carroll, they haven't done it in 15 years. Is bought early. They usually wait for months and months and months and months. I mean, what was your reaction to all four of the major moves that they made so far between the trading of DK, the Geno Smith trade, Darnold, and then later on Cooper Kupp coming here to the Seahawks?
Well, I'm actually really happy to hear that you're loving it, because taken as a whole, I've hated it. This is by far my least favorite offseason in a very long time, maybe of the entire John Schneider era. So, but I'm always willing to be wrong. I am rooting to be wrong. They made a couple of moves a little earlier than they normally do. Again, they kind of sat out the first wave of free agency, but with DeMarcus Lawrence and Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp, there's some real name value there. But I also am seeing no money guaranteed beyond this year, which if I were to try and mount a defense for this, because I think they took a big step backwards at quarterback. I think they've taken a massive step back at receiver. Love what they're doing on defense. Absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah.
And, the fact that they don't have really any money guaranteed to any of these guys beyond this year tells me that, A, they're probably planning on re-signing their successful draft picks from the last few years. Your JSNs, Devin Witherspoons, Boye Mafes, Charles Cross, hopefully Abe Lucas, Ken Walker, perhaps Reek Woolen. Like, these are guys that are going to need contracts here in the next couple of years. So this gives you that. I think they got worse at their best positions and stayed bad at their worst positions.
I have to admit, I am kind of in the middle of you two. I feel like it's the three bears, but particularly though the Darnold signing, because I know, Mr. Smooth has been pretty positive on it after some time to reflect, but I just can't shake. I'm kind of with you, Jackson. I feel like I can't shake the feeling. We have a lot more data that proves that Sam Darnold plays one way than we have that proves that he's going to be the quarterback that won 14 games with the Vikings. And I think part of that is due to Kevin O'Connell. And like you, I want to be wrong. But I think they need to. I like the fact that they got younger at the quarterback position. That's the biggest positive for me. But the thing is, they need to invest more. And I know it's a cliche thing that all Seahawks fans say. Everybody's been saying it, but it's true. They gotta continue to invest in the offensive line, especially because I personally do not feel that Sam Darnold is as mobile as Geno is. But what I do think is going to happen next season is they're going to invest a lot in the run. But again, to do that, you have to have a very good offensive line. So I'm a little worried. Offensively. I love the team defensively. I think all three of us do. But I'm kind of in the middle of you two. And for Cooper Kupp, I'm just hopeful. I'm hoping that we get some semblance of peak Cooper Kupp and not the often injured Cooper Kupp. So I kind of agree with you a little bit here.
Well, I think for me, just going back to the quarterback thing, is like I'm all for getting younger and cheaper at quarterback. I just because I think Geno Smith is good. Yeah. We've lost so much nuance in our ability to talk about sports that it's like now I'm just glazing Geno Smith, or I think he's Joe Burrow, or whatever.
Your replies have been immaculate, to put it lightly.
I'm just like begging us as a collective to think critically and to not be afraid of like having our opinions adjust with new information. Like I'm the guy that has defended John Schneider every offseason for the last 10 years.
Oh boy.
And the worm is turning on that one for me right now, because, if you can get younger or cheaper at quarterback, by all means do it. I just think most fans really underestimate how difficult it is to replace the 12th to 16th best quarterback in the league, because there is a line, and quarterback play to me is pretty binary. Are you above this threshold or are you below it? And Geno Smith has spent 3 years being above my subjective threshold for competent QB play.
Yeah.
And Sam Darnold has spent 1 doing that after 5 or 6 of being way, 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 way below it. And he did it under pretty ideal circumstances. I think that as of right now, Seattle's biggest issue going into 2025 has been their biggest issue going into 2024 and 2023 and 2022 and all the way back to probably 2014, which is the offensive line. And you just traded one of the most analytically successful under pressure quarterbacks in the entire NFL for one of the least successful under pressure quarterbacks in the NFL. And you're bringing him into an extremely high pressure situation. So unless Sam Darnold morphs into what he's never been before, I think this is much more likely to be a 1 year, $37 million contract than it is to be a 3 year, $100 million contract.
Yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better, is that, that they essentially have an out. And it may say something about how they feel about their own signing. Hey, we're going to try this and we're going to see what
they've got an
works.
escape clause, which is great.
But
they do.
I will say, and I'll let you drive the show a little bit, Mr. Smooth, because I feel like you've barely gotten a chance to talk.
Oh, stop it! I love this.
But I feel like at least they're willing to take some swings, which I do like a little bit. They're willing to take some swings. It's going to be bad if they miss, but at least they're willing to try some things out. Defensively, I have enough faith in Mike Macdonald. He's going to build a great defense. He's going to figure that out. And I liked the move when they hired him because the division is filled with a bunch of offensive genius coaches, for lack of a better term. I know that's thrown around a lot, but McVay he's an offensive mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kyle Shanahan kind of stinks at clock management, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
We've picked him to shreds
Yeah.
on time to miss more than many occasions.
Yeah, and I really like what Jonathan Gannon is doing down in Arizona. I think he's a decent coach, and he's got that team playing hard for him. But so I like the McDonald hire, but I was shocked with the Ryan Grubb firing. I thought he'd at least get another year. I didn't expect the Ryan Grubb firing to happen. But I'll let Mr. Smooth speak for himself. But the Clint Kubiak hiring, you're pretty positive on from what you've told me. What are your thoughts about the Clint Kubiak hiring?
Oh, myself? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to step on Samuel either, but
You're good, bro.
Okay. I don't know. I'm reserving judgment. I like his last name. Kubiaks have had success as play callers in the NFL for a long time. It's so hard to know what to make of him because in the first 2 games of last season, they looked like a nuclear weapon in New Orleans and were scoring 40 points a game. And, it was like, oh, okay, this wide zone run scheme, play action, deep drop, go deep. That's great.
What happened?
And then they had a ton of injuries. I mean, and everyone does, but I mean, they lost Chris Olave, they lost Derek Carr for a while. I think at some point during the season, all 5 starting offensive linemen were hurt. They lost Taysom Hill, who was kind of their get-out-of-jail-free card on offense. Kendre Miller never got going. And so they did deal with a lot of injuries. But they were the lowest-scoring team in the NFL over the last 15 weeks. And I want to just chalk that up to Spencer Rattler and a bunch of backups on offense. And, I'm willing to do that because I think Mike McDaniel's a good offensive coach, and his offense went to hell when Tua was hurt. So I'm not going to judge him too harshly on that. I don't know that the puzzle pieces fit super well with the Kubiak offense. But again, I'm just kind of reserving judgment on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you on that one. I've been sort of mixed a little bit depending on who you ask. More importantly, because at the same point, the wide zone offense has been successful since the days of Bill Walsh, since the 80s, for God's sakes. So it's been successful for 40 freaking years. I mean, when it's been successful for 40 years, you're doing something right. But Jacson, you mentioned earlier about your harsh critiquing, to put it kindly, for John Schneider. Why? What is the whole big deal behind that whole thing? Because I have been sort of on a toss-up at this point for the last couple of years with Schneider. And I want to hear what you have to say first before the two of us, me and Dustin, go off the deep end on John. So, go crazy.
I think that, what John Schneider did early in his career was incredible. His first 3 drafts were maybe the best 3-year stretch of drafts by a single team we've seen in the free agency period. And, that won them a title. It got them to another Super Bowl and carried them for a while. There have been a bunch of really deep analytical analyses of GMs and drafting. And the consensus conclusion from all of that is that it's pretty noisy. There isn't really a skill to drafting well. There is so much randomness that it's really hard to say this team drafts well, that team doesn't draft well. Now, there are teams that draft poorly consistently.
Yes.
There are very few that draft well consistently. And I think John Schneider's been trading in on that incredible first few year run for a long time. And I wouldn't be surprised. It would have happened to me if I started out my career with those drafts. I would have thought I was smarter than the league too. I probably would have started galaxy braining LJ Collier and James Carpenter and Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
And all of these picks, because my 2010, 2011, and 2012 grades were panned by everyone also. They famously got F grades from Kuiper and McShay. So he's saying, well, fuck what you guys think. Clearly that worked out. I know what I'm doing. Well, he drafted one good player in the next 5 years. That was Tyler Lockett. And so he's been kind of average since then. But he hasn't done enough elsewhere, in my opinion, to overcome it, because every time I hear people say, I'm glad they traded Geno, I'm glad they moved on from DK. Okay, why? Well, because they haven't been good enough. They haven't won a playoff game. Motherfucker, if you think Geno Smith is in the top 10 reasons that they haven't won a playoff game, I don't know what the hell you're watching. They can't fucking block. They haven't blocked in a decade. The fact that they're winning 9 or 10 games every year is because of Geno Smith. And
that is a miracle, to put it kindly.
So for him to just and every interview is just so arrogant about the offensive line. And it's like, listen, pal, I'm fine with saying you understand this roster better than me. I'm never going to say otherwise. But I can look at the track record, and you've stunk in the same area forever, and you haven't tried anything else to fix it. You've used 2 top picks on offensive linemen, and those are the 2 that worked out for you, Charles Cross and Russell Okung. Everybody else has stunk, except for maybe Abe Lucas if he can get healthy again. It's a bad track record, and if you're going to fail the same way for 12 straight off seasons, just fail differently. Go out and try spending some money on offensive line, because what you're doing isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think largely, and I gotta ask both of you, but we'll start with the guest as always, I guess, because I feel like there's a large percentage of Seahawk fans. Well, I don't know about large percentage, but I think there's a lot of people that were willing to give John Schneider the benefit of the doubt, because Pete Carroll had, in the previous arrangement, he had the final say over personnel. So people are laying it at the feet of Pete, the successes and the misses. So some people's argument was, now we're finally going to get to see what Schneider can do when he's the sole decision maker. So this is what makes the last couple of off seasons kind of interesting, because now this is his imprint, but the offensive line woes, those were consistent no matter who had final say. They've always been that. They've always been that way.
Luke Jokel. I will never forget that.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. If you're not going to have amazing drafts anymore. And he, like I said, he's been fine the last few years. He's had some hits. What is it that you are great at that's going to elevate this team? Because you signed 10 free agents last year. Your first year, full reigns, you signed 10 free agents last year. None of them are on the 2025 roster. 0 for 10. 0 for 10.
Yep. When do you think a change could happen? Let's throw the hypothetical train and go, all right, if the Seahawks fail to make the playoffs again, which is a very good possibility considering the NFC's very top-heavy.
Yeah.
Very top-heavy. But let's say they miss the playoffs at 9-8. Do they dare make a change at GM?
I don't think John Schneider's job is in any jeopardy at all, because trading Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and not guaranteeing any money to anybody beyond 2025 is not the type of moves that GM on the hot seat makes. None of that is about win now. The argument for the moves they're making is to be in a position to re-sign all your guys and load up in 2026 and beyond, and have enough. I think the defense will be good enough to keep them competitive and keep them a 7 to 9 win team this year. I don't think they're just going to be terrible, but I don't think John Schneider's in trouble until Jody Allen is finally forced to sell the team.
Which, by the way, for those wondering, it's next year.
Well, it was supposed to be 2 years ago, so we'll see. She's been fighting that pretty hard, and I can't get out of my head that the year she took over the Portland Trailblazers, they were coming off of their first Western Conference Finals appearance in 20 years, and in the offseason, she completely gutted it, and they haven't even won 40% of their games in a season ever since. Oof. And it takes away the best player that they ever had. So maybe it's apples and oranges, but I think that as long as Jody is there, John is there.
I hate to agree with you on this one, but I might have to agree with you on this one, because you might have. Dustin, he beats me in terms of Seahawk knowledge at this point.
Well,
he really
I mean,
does.
yeah.
For God's sakes, he writes this shit.
Yeah, both of you are clearly.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Daniel. I don't know. I don't know that I agree there.
I mean, I do have you beat with the tattoos, so there's
you do. You got me there.
I got you beat with the tattoo. That does help in this regard. So let's go to one of your go-to segments on Cigar Thoughts. Let's take a smoke break, ladies and gentlemen. And what did you? I mean, we've gone off the deep end about the Geno Smith trade and stuff like that. I mean, let's go with the positives here, if there is any from you, Jacson. Let's be honest here. What are the positives of this move?
It is an upside move. I think that you remove the floor at the quarterback position with this trade. You're only going to be so bad at the position with Geno Smith. You might be very bad at the position with Sam Darnold. However, there's a reason the guy was picked 5th overall. He was drafted shortly after his 20th birthday. He had all of the skills at a precocious age. And, we've seen, he could be Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield, where it's like you get him in the right position after bouncing around, and he proves that he has staying power and can be, a top half starting quarterback in the NFL. And a lot of people are like, well, top 50%, that's not really that good. Listen, it's not top 16 out of 32. It's top 16 out of 8 billion. Like, it is really fucking difficult to find someone who can play above average quarterback position. So hopefully he's Geno or Baker Mayfield. I've just seen this story before with Nick Foles and Case Keenum, where they're thrust into a starting role in an amazing situation, ball out, go to a different team, and never come close to recapturing that. And he is absolutely going to a worse situation than he had in Minnesota. And both from a protection standpoint, from a receiving talent standpoint, from a play calling standpoint, massive regression there. So the upside is You saved probably $8 million this year.
Yeah.
And you got 7 years younger. Now, there's no one left to spend these savings on, so I don't really care about having all this cap space, now that him and DK are gone. But if Darnold is close to as good or somehow better than he was last year in Seattle, and you hit pick number 92, then I think you can win this trade. I think that you have to thread two very small needles with the same piece of string in order to do that.
Correct. I mean, I was against it at first when they traded Geno Smith, and I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah, we were shocked. Straight up.
We were both shocked.
I was too.
Yeah. We were both shocked, but then one thing that I have tended to do as a fan of my teams and as a fan of professional wrestling, I go back to the days of, Sam Hinkie with the 76ers. What is that saying, ladies and gentlemen? Trust the process.
It's like the third time in 3 weeks you brought that out.
Yeah, unfortunately. I drive this man nuts, Jackson. I drive him nuts.
No.
It's one of my many skills to drive people insane. But, I mean, I'm very curious to know how this season pans out. Because I agree with you on the Schneider job security. As long as Jody's there, John's there. But by some God's green earth, if they tank the season, I think you need to make some changes. I don't know who they decide to go after in terms of the GM market, but it's really difficult to, target a good GM in today's league. It's really hard in the NFL to find a really good GM.
Yeah.
Really difficult to find one.
Yes.
Look at Philadelphia. Chip Kelly was their general manager for a couple of years. The Patriots. Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick was
the GM for 20 years.
Yeah.
Granted, lucked out on Brady, but still.
Yeah, but we were talking about it. He's not a good GM, but the one thing I feel like the one positive. There's a couple of angles that I want to come at this trade from, and I want to see if you agree with me, both of you. But we'll start with Jackson because he's the man of honor here, the guest. I feel like the one thing that they may have upgraded on with the Geno trade. I was a Geno Smith supporter. I didn't agree with all the hate that he got. I'm like, clearly he's proven that he's not the Geno Smith that was on the New York Jets that everybody remembers.
Correct.
But he threw a lot of red zone interceptions.
Yes.
That's the one area where he was weak. And I feel like Sam could be better at that. I don't think, and slightly in the defense of Sam Darnold, because I know I started the show by saying I still don't know
you did
how to feel about
you did
Sam Darnold, and I'm not trying to take shots at my dear friend and co-host of No Credentials Required, who is a Jets fan, but in the defense of Sam Darnold, the Jets have proven, regardless of coaching staff or GM, they do not know how to develop a quarterback. They did it with Geno Smith. They massively screwed it up with Geno, and they did it with Sam Darnold. And then Sam Darnold went to Carolina after that. And Carolina was an absolute dumpster fire when he was asked to come and play there. Baker Mayfield was also terrible in Carolina, and he found a good situation. So maybe Sam has finally exercised those demons, but I feel like the positive of the Geno Smith trade is hopefully Sam Darnold throws fewer red zone interceptions.
He also could throw the piss out of the football, Ken Darnold.
Yeah, no question. I do not want my hesitation. Can you guys hear me? By the way,
yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're golden.
Okay, cool. My earbuds dropped out, so I wasn't sure. So I don't want my hesitation with Sam Darnold to be misinterpreted as me thinking he doesn't have the talent. I think it's very clear at this point he has the talent. I thought he played his ass off against Seattle and came up with a very clutch game-winning drive in that game. And that was during a part of the season where the Seahawks defense was playing really well. So
yes,
he can do it, no question. He's got the tools. But by his own admission, he in his opening press conference with the Seahawks, his introductory presser, he was like, "Yeah, I need to get the ball out on time." Like that is the issue, and that covers a multitude of sins in the NFL, playing quarterback. It's like, if you're an NBA player, you don't have to be the best athlete in the world, but if you're a great shooter, you can make it in the league. You don't have to throw 102 miles an hour to make it in the majors if you hit all your spots. Tua no longer has great arm. Right. Tua no longer has great arm strength. Brock Purdy does not have great arm strength, but those guys have been. Jared Goff does not have great arm strength.
No, he does not.
You put those guys in good situations, they can put up ludicrous numbers, and they all have, because they're all very good at getting the ball out on time with accuracy. And that is not something Sam Darnold has done. And so if he can do that, great. There is real upside. There is a way for Seattle to have gotten better at the quarterback position. There are real outcomes in which this is a huge boon for the team. I just think that if you simulate this out 100 times, it's like 15 or fewer. Are they in a better situation?
Yeah.
We feel
it's hard for you, Jacson.
I would have said the same thing after they traded Russell Wilson, that you played out 100 times. I would have said there's 3 in which Geno Smith is better. And Geno Smith has been better than Russell Wilson since that trade. Yeah. So, I mean, it can happen. I'm not saying it can't. And if I were to look for reasons to have faith, it's that John Schneider has landed the plane at quarterback his entire career.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Speaking of Russell Wilson, do you guys want to talk about the elephant in the room in this entire discussion?
We can.
Oh, yeah. You guys are New York boys.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah, but I like New York Yankees baseball. I'm sorry, everybody. My dad made me do it.
Oh, I wish I was a Yankees fan. I wish I was the Yankees fan.
Jacson, I have turned to the Mariners because I can't stand New York baseball radio. I can't.
I just don't listen to it. I watch the games.
You know as well as I do, Jackson, when I as a Yankee fan have turned to the Mariners.
Right. Yeah, that's tough.
Kill me. That's tough. But I mean, when I saw this move, I was like, "Oh, good luck, Giants! Good freaking luck!"
Oh man.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a "please save our jobs" move by Dable and Joe Shane, because if I felt secure in my job for the next 3 years, I'm rolling Jameis out there. I'm giving Malik Neighbors 230 targets.
Yeah.
And I'm losing 13 games, and it's going to be entertaining as fuck. And then I get my quarterback next year in a class that should have a few of them at the top of the draft. So this definitely feels like get us one more year so that we can draft a guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
maybe God help us.
My uncle is a Giants fan, and he's like, maybe they're trying to hold out for Arch. They're using the combo of Russ and Jameis as bridge quarterbacks, and they're trying to get to Arch Manning. I don't know.
Dude, shit.
I mean, if you want to get to Arch Manning, you roll Tommy DeVito out there all year.
Tommy Cutlets, yeah. I love him. I just love him. He's like a professional wrestler. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's definitely the most entertaining quarterback room in the league.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, and I mean, I will admit, there's a small part of me that's still, because I'm like, when Russ went to Denver and everybody was saying that he was washed, I was like, he's not. Like when Sean Payton comes in and is like, oh, we're gonna bench you for Jarrett Stidham. Russ had him in playoff position. He had him that second year in the Broncos. That first year, I put that on the coach. I put that on the coach. He didn't even practice with his ones. He didn't run his ones at all, like during
Correct.
the preseason or anything. So I put that on the coach. But there's a small part of me that still kind of roots for Russ to show that he has something left. But after the way he finished with the Steelers, I don't think so. I still think Russell Wilson can throw one of the prettiest deep balls in the league if he
can.
But he doesn't have much left. This is gonna be
Well,
tough.
here's my thought on Russ, and I had as much fun with his downfall as anybody. And
Join the club.
And it's, a lot of it is because, look, that ended up being one of the most lopsided trades in NFL history. And Seattle was on the right side of it. And it was mostly just because I had so many Broncos fans in my mentions after the trade that, I really enjoyed dancing on the grave. And I think Russell Wilson's cringiness really went national after that. And people realized it wasn't just a product of, him being in Seattle, when he was trying out Let's Ride and wearing his own jersey to his first practice and doing all that kind of stuff. I think people saw like, okay, yeah, there really was maybe some reason why some of the other best players in the Seahawks locker room didn't jive with Russell Wilson. That being said, Russell Wilson was a goddamn fantastic quarterback for like 9 years.
Yeah.
And he's always had real limitations. He does not throw the ball on time. He cannot complete passes over the middle of the field less than 20 yards. And he is too reliant on his mobility to make big plays. The thing is, he was so good at the things that he was good at, the escapability and the deep ball, that it covered the multitude of sins.
Yeah.
Now that he's not as mobile and the deep ball isn't as consistent, he's much easier to defend than he used to be. But he is absolutely above the threshold of competent NFL quarterback play.
Do you think the Russell Wilson trade saved Pete Carroll's job? I want to get your thoughts because remember
that's a good question. I never really thought about that.
If you do remember, Jackson, a year and 2 months ago when we did BS sessions, we did predict the inevitable Pete Carroll dismissal. I mean, do you think the Russell Wilson trade saved Pete's job for 2 years?
Yeah, maybe. I think he was. I think when you make that trade, you probably. I think Geno Smith might have saved his job.
Yeah.
But I think when you make that trade, I mean, who knows? Maybe the goal was, hey, this will be our easy out on Pete. We'll trade the franchise quarterback. We'll stink, and we can move on. And then they make the playoffs. So it's like, well, okay. Can't really do it now. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I never really thought about it. That's a super interesting sliding doors moment to kind of consider.
I tend to do these things with people like, hey, revolving door of stupid question.
It's not a stupid question at all. That's a super interesting one. I couldn't say, but I think that there's a real possibility.
So there's some trade targets and possible free agent targets that I want to run by you guys.
Sure.
Oh, all right.
So there's a couple linemen in this list and 2 defensive players. So we're going to go by the free agents first. Stephon Gilmore, former defensive player of the year with the Patriots, played well with the Vikings, played okay with Carolina, but he's on the streets right now, 34 years old, can still play some decent ball. I see disappointment and out of Dustin's face.
No, I'm just listening, man. I'm just listening.
I can sense the vibes coming from you 600 miles away. Or is that Jackson? Probably.
I'd be fine with that. I don't think it'd be much of a needle mover.
It's cheap.
Well, sure. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot to be gained or a lot to be lost by bringing him in. I think he's pretty done as a cover corner. Maybe he's like a sub package dime guy. He's got the veteran wiles, can maybe like help coach up. you kind of bring him in as like an Adam Thielen style player coach, even though Adam Thielen's got more juice than Gilmore at this point. But I think there is real value in that. I just think that the secondary is the strongest part of this team.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many snaps, barring injury, I don't know how many snaps are available for him, because they're already going to have to figure out where to put Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
You know?
Safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great at safety.
He played great at safety, right? So, yeah, I mean, I would be fine with it. I don't think it changes the trajectory much, but I wouldn't pitch a fit unless they like guaranteed him $8 million or something.
Dustin.
Yeah, well, and I think the reason why you maybe sensed some disappointment in my face is that I just don't think it's a position of need for the team. That's what I was going to say. I think we're solid there. So why spend the money, in my opinion?
All right, then I have a hear me out one. Because
All right.
Former Super Bowl MVP with the Broncos, that pretty much gave it away. Von Miller.
As a consolation prize for missing out on Joey Bosa, okay. I wouldn't snivel, but to me, I just would be worried at this age in his career, could he stay healthy? Could he do it? Because he had trouble in Buffalo, and he had trouble. I think he was with the Rams again before.
He was
Buffalo.
traded to the Rams from Denver and then won a Super Bowl at the Rams.
Yeah,
But it was a huge help for Los Angeles.
Yeah, I remember that.
Huge help for LA.
Did he get injured before he left LA, or was it just with Buffalo? I can't remember.
He had some weird luck with the Bills. Like, he either was inconsistent or couldn't stay healthy, or he was great. It was one of the three. But I would sign Vaughn to the DeMarcus Lawrence deal, where it's like, hey, you give him 3 years, out after each year, depending on who you ask or how much the guarantee money is. Move DeMarcus Lawrence to the D line, and there your pass rusher group is Boy Mafe, Derek Hall, Uchenna, and Vaughn. That ain't bad if you ask me.
Yeah, if he's got anything left, I struggle with old players, and I struggle with old players coming off of injury, especially. I mean, at that point, what's your offseason? It's Sam Darnold, it's 32-year-old Cooper Kupp, it's 32-year-old DeMarcus Lawrence, and it's 32-year-old Von Miller. I mean, I think the biggest frustration for me with all of this is the timing of it. Like, if you want to reset, maybe don't do it the same year that the 49ers are resetting. Maybe remember that you just won 10 games and missed out on winning the division on the 5th tiebreaker. Like, this isn't the time to reshuffle the deck for me. But, I mean, yeah, they're probably a little better with him.
27 tiebreakers.
No, but that was my question. I remember I changed my headline for the show after the Geno trade. I said rebuild ? Because that's what it felt like to me.
I convinced you.
I know you did. You said it was a retool.
I did say so. I said there's no way in hell they rebuilt this roster after a 10-win season. No way.
Yeah, I mean,
no way. I mean,
and also let's be honest. They almost beat the Vikings. And they almost made it very interesting.
Yeah.
Now that Packer game, we don't talk about the Packer game.
We don't talk about the Packer game. We don't talk about the Packer game. Oh, look who's decided to join the club.
No. Here he is.
Where he is. There's the good old belly up writer, Kevin Wilson. Kevin, Jackson, Kevin, how are you guys doing?
Thanks for keeping the seat warm for me.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
We
what's
got
up,
you,
Kevin?
bro. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
We may be way out of control now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, Jackson's just chilling in the cold. He's probably freezing his ass off.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad.
Really? How cold is it up there?
I don't know. Like 50.
Oh, I'd take that all day. I'd take that all day. I woke up to 30 degrees this morning, so I'll take that.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's what is it over here on Long Island? It's 52. It's 52 right now on Long Island.
Yeah.
So I mean,
We're in the 60s here, so
Yeah.
we're good.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky Texas. Oh boy. So we have the draft coming up a month from I think a month from today. It's a month from today?
About.
I think so. I mean, it's they have the 18th pick, including 3 picks in the first 52, do the Seahawks. Where do you got Jackson, you go first since you probably have more knowledge than all 4 of us combined. 3. Where do you think they're gonna go here?
I hope that they just go best player available. At this point, 18 is such a tough spot because the challenge with drafting in the back, the challenge with being good but not good enough is it is very rare that there are 20 players that have first round grades, but you have to give out 32 first round contracts. And that makes it tough on teams who are not in the lottery to pick. So at that point, I guess perfect world, enough people are out on Tetura McMillan that he falls. He's my favorite receiver in the draft. You have that gives you your boundary receiver because the Clint Kubiak offense, like if we think Kubiak is not going to be a one and done, then you need to get Clint Kubiak parts. And the thing that makes a Kubiak offense click, like, yes, the wide zone running works. That's the foundation. But when you walk through the house, the stuff that catches your eye is the horizontal play action, deep drop over the top. That's why they brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. One of the big bummers for me is that DK Metcalf is an absolutely perfect fit for a Clint Kubiak offense.
God dang it.
And so you need someone that can win on the boundary. And I think both JSN and Cooper Kupp can, at least Cooper Kupp has in the past, but they run a ton of 12 personnel with 1 running back and 2 and 2 tight ends, which means you've only got 2 receivers on the field for the majority of Clint Kubiak's plays. And you don't have a true boundary receiver. And when you only have 2 receivers out there, there's not a slot position to be had. So I would love to see that. I think my dream pick there is Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State.
Yeah.
Because I think that he dips 1 foot in 2 pools, both of which need a talent infusion. I think will be a serviceable blocker at the NFL level, but I think he'll be a plus receiver as a tight end. And now if you have him, you can make Noah Fant more of a true move tight end, which is where I think that he is designed to excel. And Tyler Warren is the guy that does not tip your hand when he's on the field. You know that it's just as likely to be a run play as it is to be a pass play when he's out there. And I think that he's someone that can actually change the temperature of the water when he's on the field. So those would be the 2 guys I love. Now everyone does after the combine. Before the combine, I'd really fall in love with Nick Emenwari from South Carolina, the safety that, he blew the roof off the stadium in Indianapolis. He is the highest relative athletic score of any safety ever, but also the highest relative athletic score of any corner or linebacker ever. Basically the best athlete to ever show up to the combine. And I don't love him at 18. I was really hoping he'd be there at 50. I think that ship has sailed. So I like where the defense is at. If a great defensive player is still there, you want to take a shot on Shamar Stewart and go for it. But I think now you really do need to try and get this offense better if you can.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Booker from Alabama would be my dream pick personally. That man can move people. He moves people. I don't know. I mean,
that would be great too. Yeah, I would be great. Very into that. Yeah,
he'd be great because I think what they're trying to do on the offensive line is, hey, let's see what we got out of the guys we have and develop on the fly, because it has kind of worked with Oluwatimi, He's been good at center so far. He really has. Satalamea being thrown in there at the starting as a starter at the guard after he was a fifth round pick, sixth round pick, something like that. He's played well for the most part.
I think that he played better than Christian Haynes,
which was disappointing.
Yes. So I'm not ready to like write those guys. I actually like Olu. I'm fine with him at center, and I hope that Haynes or Laumea, really take a step. We've never really seen that from an interior lineman drafted by John Schneider, but maybe one of those guys will be the first. And if they get the guy you're talking about, yes. I mean, you're looking for guys in the first round who can change the gravity of what you're trying to do. And I do think there are a few guys who can do that, and he's one of them.
Yes. Kevin, where do you want them to go? I don't know where your knowledge is.
Well, it's nice of you to let me go after all that knowledge. Just I
tell you, this guy's like an encyclopedia.
Well, and I'll tell you, if he had passed to me, Kevin, I was going to be like, well, Kevin just got here, and I've talked a lot this show. So you were getting it either way.
But I think that you're onto something up there, Mr. Smooth, because this is a draft where before the Seahawks go, there are teams have other needs other than offensive linemen. And so I think that there'll probably be only two of them off the board when the Seahawks are on the clock. And as you mentioned, if a certain offensive lineman from Alabama is sitting there, you jump all day, all night, and you party all the way to
it's like Kiss.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like Kiss.
Yeah.
Rock and roll all night.
Rock and roll all night and everything else, because wide receiver is not deep in this draft, so I'm not big on doing that. And the tight end position is a position that the Seahawks have shown that they just can't get. They don't know how to develop any quality players over there.
AJ played well, though. I will give AJ Barner credit where credit is deserved.
Okay, that's all well and good, but when you the debate is always, do you take the best player or do you take a position of need? Well, if this situation happens and that Alabama offensive lineman is sitting there, that's the best of both worlds. So I go there all day long. And remember a couple of years ago, the Seahawks had the 20th pick, and they came up with Jackson Smith and the Jigman. So there's certainly a possibility that a great player could be in that position.
Correct.
And I think the offensive lineman is it works out for them because, like I said, the players, teams in front of them need defensive players. They need other positions other than offensive linemen. So, and I would go there and as you guys were saying, if they can't block Sam Darnold, they might as well just put a blanket over him and let it be over with. So they need to get some protection for him.
Spoken like a true Texan. I love it.
There's one other player that has been getting steamed up with regards to Seattle a lot. I'm usually hesitant about small school linemen, but Gray Zabel appears to be
North Dakota State.
Yeah. And he seems like a guy with the traits to win at the next level. So that's another one that I kind of have circled in my mind as well.
Dustin?
All right. So I'm going to say they need to go offensive line, but candidly, you all know I'm not the biggest college football fan out there. In fact, I watch almost none of it because I want my Saturdays free because Ryan has been trying to get me into college football for years. And I'm like, man, it's enough to watch on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and whenever they do Friday games. I was like, I need one free day. So I'm going to kind of frame it differently. I'm going to ask a question of everybody on this esteemed panel here. What are the chances that you think, because I want them to draft offensive line, but I hope they do. It's a position of need that they've always struggled with, and they need it for the scheme, they need it for the offense, but they have a lot of picks. They have more picks than I can remember them having in a while with some of the trades that they've made and things that they've done. What is the likelihood that they kind of uncharacteristically use those picks to either trade up and get somebody they want, or use those picks to try to trade for somebody at the draft, whether it be somebody on a team or somebody they intend to draft? What are the likelihoods? And I guess we'll lead off with Jacson first. He is the guest after all.
I'm so sorry it cut out halfway through there. What I heard, what is the likelihood?
What is the likelihood with the number of picks that Seattle has? What is the likelihood of them trading up to draft a player that they're really excited about, or putting together a trade package with some of those draft picks? Because I feel like it's the highest number of picks that we've had for a draft in a little bit in recent history.
Yeah,
here.
since the Russell Wilson trade, it would run counter to John's MO.
Yeah,
but
they usually trade back and do all sorts of stuff.
I think that's where you just have to be honest with your big board and be really strict with your tiers. And if you're sitting there at 50 and you're 10 picks away and there's only 3 players left in that tier, then yes, you get aggressive to go get that guy.
I have an idea. Mr. Krabs, I have an idea.
Yeah. So, if it means that you package 50 and 92 to go get Emanwari, and you try and give Mike McDonald that real weapon in the secondary, to go with Reek and Witherspoon. I think Julian Love is good enough as a center field type free safety to allow Emanwari to do what made him special in college, which is an in the box safety. Not to say, it's funny. We always compare draft picks to like all time greats because
he has the chance of comparison.
They're recognizable names, but yeah, and or like a taller Buda Baker, and I really trust McDonald's ability to weaponize a player like that. So if you feel like, man, I'm really not certain this guy's going to be here, and if he's not, then we're checking down to a lower tier of player, then yeah, I would say move up. Likelihood of them doing it, like 25-30% maybe.
Hear me out then. Hear me out. So I mentioned I have an idea.
Good.
So take 50 and 52, your 2 second-round picks. Trade up. Get a second first-round pick. And you luck out on both Tyler Booker from Alabama, the offensive lineman, and Nick Emanwari from South Carolina.
I would be totally fine with that. That would be great. I would feel great about that draft.
I'd feel way better about the offseason. Since you have slowly convinced me over to the dark side.
He's eroded.
He's
eroded
it's the
you.
Cigars. It's like,
he has eroded your confidence in their offseason.
He has. He's not destroyed my confidence, but he's eroded my confidence.
Here's the thing, guys. I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
We all are.
Yeah.
I'm wrong a lot. I'm really hoping this is one of those times where I am wrong. So I'm definitely open to that being the case.
All right, Kev, do you think there's any likelihood that they use the picks to trade up or acquire somebody at the draft?
I think that depending on what they do, because I don't see them moving up any closer than where they sit in the first round. And so if you get the offensive lineman that you want there, whatever you get the player that you want, and then you've got those 2 second-round picks that you can package, and if there's a player that you really, really, really like, then I would do that and move up and get the player, that you want. If, as you said, there's only 3 players that are left on your board and they're going to be gone 10 picks later, go ahead and do that. And so I think that's some good ammunition, those 2 second-round picks that you can use to move up. And so just go ahead and do that. If let's say there's maybe 7 players on your board and you're sitting there 10 back, I would sit there then, because the chances of all 7 of them being gone are probably nil. So you stay true to your board and just follow it and go with the, maybe I'd say 10 picks has been mentioned away. And depending on how things stand, then you make your move, and I wouldn't do anything before that.
Okay.
Oh.
And also, Dustin, you need to come on board, all right, to college football.
With college football,
okay?
yeah, everybody gets on me all the time.
You do need to come on board, and if I could, make one, throw one, team in, get on board with Clemson, okay?
All right.
I hear you on that part.
All right.
I'll just throw that in there. So, because this is the Clemson household, so.
Now, see, now the contrarian in me is going to double down because so many people are trying to get me to watch it. I'll continue to not watch it just because I'll dig my heels in.
If you want a great documentary, look up the Nevin Shapiro scandal of the Miami Hurricanes.
Oh yeah, the
great documentary.
Yeah, they did a 30 for 30 on that. The Miami Hurricanes,
they did a
right?
30 for 30.
Yeah,
and also the Pete Carroll Reggie Bush scandal with USC.
Yep, I remember that.
Those USC teams were so good.
They were
so good. But Jackson, I do know you got to get out of here in the next few minutes, because I know you are a very busy man.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing I'd rather do than talk football all day.
Especially Seahawks football. So there you have it.
Especially with the Department of Bullshit, which
That's right.
We have any final thoughts before we close up the shop? Kevin, I'm sorry. We had you for 10, 15 minutes.
I know. Maybe a short shot of me is about all people can stand. So
stop
no,
it.
that's not true. That's not true.
Stop
and
it.
you and I are going to be podcasting a lot more together here, which I'll tell you after the show. But that's a tease, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on another show.
Tease. Delightful.
See, not every show gives you a tease, man.
Yeah.
And here it is right here.
Very rare in this nonsense debacle. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this edition of Seahawks Sessions. Jackson, you're always welcome in this department of bullshit, as per usual.
Yeah.
Appreciate you for coming on, my friend.
All right, thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Dustin,
this was awesome. This was awesome. Real quick before you go, favorite bourbon to have with a cigar, like a general
Here we
one.
go.
Quick
Here we
drink.
go.
Oh, of the stuff that, like, if you're listening, you can go out and find. It's the High West Campfire Bourbon.
Okay. I've had that. It's pretty good.
That sounds good.
Writing that down.
I've enjoyed it. But yeah, you're right. A lot of stuff, especially since the shortage, it's getting ridiculous. Like Buffalo Trace used to be like a nice, easy, like, oh, I'll use this as like my shelf bourbon if I'm going to make a cocktail or whatever. Because you used to be able to get a bottle for like $35, and now it's ridiculous. I just won't buy it because I know what it used to be.
Correct.
It's crazy.
Correct. Glen Silver's is pretty good. It's a $20 bottle.
No, I'll have to try that one.
It's Scotch. It's Scotch whiskey.
Oh,
With that
okay.
being said, my name is Daniel Smooth. That's a voice crack and a half right there. Dustin's coming to you from the capital region of Albany, New York. Kevin's coming to you from the great state of Texas. Jacson Bevens of Cigar Thoughts coming to you from this rainy as shit state of Washington. I'm coming to you from the beaches of lovely Long Island, New York, and we will see you all in this life and most certainly the next one. Cheers, guys.